Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome today to FusionPro New Features webinar for December 2021. I think we'll go ahead and get started. So, hey, thanks everyone for joining us here today. My name is Eric Hazard. I'm a product marketing manager here at MarcomCentral. It's my pleasure to welcome you today with John Genovese, who is a sales manager here directly with FusionPro, and Ching Yu, who is the product owner of FusionPro, who's going to demonstrate some of the products and features here today. We do have a little bit of highlights for you guys where we're going to talk about some of the new features, and Ching is actually going to demo some of those for you guys here today. We'll talk about some of those advanced options and compatibilities into new applications out there. But I also wanted to, welcome everybody too at the end to Q&A. It's important that everybody, if you have questions, has a voice to be heard and answered. So if you have the chat dialogue open, we welcome you to go ahead and suggest those as we move through the presentation so we can answer those afterwards. Again, if you want to stay afterwards, we'll unmute folks and you can go ahead and we'll talk one-to-one if you want. But I also wanted to mention here today too that if you don't know much about Marcom outside of FusionPro, we have developed a new product called Marcom Gather. It is a digital asset management tool. So we welcome you guys if you're in the market for looking for an asset management tool or looking for knowledge about what a digital asset management tool. We welcome you to know more at marcomgather.com, or you can visit us on our homepage. You can look under the products tab and you can find it right up there. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Ching and we're going to get into today's session. Thanks again for attending, everyone.
Thanks, John and Eric. Hello, everyone. I'm glad you can join us today. I know everyone is busy, so hopefully you find this session helpful and insightful. And obviously, we'd love to hear your feedback, and that's really one of the goals for having these kind of webinars and sessions, to give us an opportunity and you an opportunity to communicate and exchange information, ideas, and thoughts. So I'm very excited to go through the features we released yesterday and throughout this year, and it's a great way to finish the year 2021. So I'll start with reviewing the OS and updates. I'll demo some of the features, but not all of them, just because we have a limited amount of time. So the first news is we released FusionPro 12.1.2 just yesterday this week. So this new version will now support the latest Adobe InDesign CC 2022, and that's for both Mac and Windows. I know some of our users have already had the plugin installed. We'll try to make them available, but now you can download this new version that will automatically install to 2022, along with a few other features that I will demo today too. If we have any MarcomCentral portal users on this call, we are planning to update the portals in January. So before that happens, you may want to stay at your current FusionPro version so you can upload your templates to the portals. But if you do need to run FusionPro with InDesign 2022, please let us know. We will help you get the new plugins installed. So other changes, big changes in FusionPro this year. I know it's not so much about adding new functionalities, but it is great to keep up with the OS changes, updates, and the application changes. So this year we updated the FusionPro server to be a 64-bit Windows application. You get more memory, you can run larger jobs, and I think one of the most visible benefit to this is you can now generate much larger files way over the 2 GB limit. It doesn't happen very often, but I know we have customers who do have files that large, and in the past, also, if you don't know your file going to end up with that kind of a limit, it's sometimes the FusionPro server can take a long time try to get to the end. So this is, with this change, you can now generate a large file and it will finish in a reasonable amount of time. In conjunction with that change, we updated many parts of FusionPro to 64-bit on Windows. We moved to install FusionPro also in the 64-bit program files. So this has been changed since the summer this year. If you are installing from version 11 to one of the version 12 versions, if you're looking for activation programs, sometimes you need the configure program, just make a note that it will be in the C program files folder, not the program files x86 folders anymore. So we're pretty much up to date in terms transition from the good old 32-bit environment to 64-bit, except for the FusionPro plugin for Acrobat on Windows. That is still a 62-bit application. We are waiting for Adobe to release a 64-bit Acrobat Pro in the US, but we are already done a lot of legwork for that, so we're in a very good position to support that when it comes out. FusionPro plugins on the Mac were already running 64-bit since version 11. That's one of the biggest change also in version 11 is to move away from 32-bit as Apple stopped supporting 32-bit environment on the Mac a couple years ago, or about 3 years ago now. So moving on, there are two improvements to the PDF output. I think those are very welcoming features to going through your production workflow. We added one is the advanced optimization option. The advantage of using this is you can reduce the output file size, the PDF output file size, without sacrificing the image quality. So this is not reducing the file size by downsampling the images. This is a different way of getting the files more organized, optimized. It's a technology from Adobe PDF library we're taking advantage of. So most of the PDF output, you will see a reduction. Some are more significant than others. Occasionally, we have seen the file that actually gone the other way, but that's rare. So give this a try. I think this will be a benefit across the board, even if you don't, file size isn't a sensitive issue in terms of transferring them from one location to another, but give this a try. And I think for the newer jobs, if you set up a new template, we default to the advanced option. If you see things you want to keep running the old way, you can always change it back to the basic. So in the compose dialog, we now have an option under the optimization compression. There's advanced option, a basic option. You can always go back to the basic, and that goes back to where PDF compression algorithm we have been using for many years. The second change, I think we've been asked a lot. Also, I think in the way the PDF has been becoming more prevalent in the production workflow, we added the ability to preserve the background layers in the output. So this is useful if you're using die-cut lines, you have on a layer that's not visible for printing, but you need that for some other post-processing machines to process that information. So we will now carry that information in the background template. So if you had the design in InDesign or Illustrator with die-cut lines, put them on an invisible layer, that's for that can be turned off for printing and generate the PDF output for the print purpose. But you may turn that on in later steps during your post-processing, and that layered information will get carried through. So that's an exchange for some of our customers. So these are the, so that to turn the layers, to preserve the layers in PDF output, we do have a new setting in the compose dialog. So you turn on preserve background layers. I believe that by default is off. So if you do want layers to come up, check that. Make sure you check it here. That setting is turned on. PostScript output doesn't support layers. So if it's a PostScript output or PostScript-based output, we will flatten the layer. So if the layer comes in and is set to be invisible, it will not show up in the PostScript output. But you will lose that layer information in the PostScript-based output. So these are sort of the output and production changes we made in conjunction with all the OS updates throughout this year. So I hope this is really a nice collection of features for the customers. Then we have a few changes to help our server customers, some of the producer customers, to make your job a little bit easier. So first thing we add is the ability to upload templates directly to FusionPro server. So if you're a server customer on this call, you probably know what I mean. Is we have a dashboard tool we provide to server customers. From there, you can upload the template, and we will prepare that and ready for server to consume. So in either through API integration or through a watch folder, So what the users have to do, you have to do in the past is collect that job template, just like you do with any collect, and then go to the dashboard and find the file and upload and get it prepared. So we now added an option in the collect dialog. So you will see, hopefully you can see my mouse move here. So you will see this new option to collect to the server directly, and you do need to provide a URL. So ask the person who's responsible for setting up the services. They will provide you a URL that you can access to upload the template directly. You do need, right now you will still need to open up dashboard to check that the job has been uploaded successfully, but we're hoping that we're making this a lot more easier for the users especially users who do this day in, day out. It's a little small step, sometimes it can reap a lot of benefits in terms of saving time. The other change we have is now the default location for temp folders usually is on the C drive, but over the years it has becoming a lot more customary to have a smaller C drive reserved for applications and system files, and then a separate larger data file drive. So we have added ability for the customers to change that temp folder where FusionPro puts files out temporarily during the processing time. Some of them don't always get cleaned up, so you can move that temp folder to a larger data drive. So that's it's a relatively small change, but it's a critical change to allow the production flow go through, especially when you have a volume, your time crunched, and so this hopefully will relieve some of that maintenance you have to do on the server side. The last change we have done among this collection of changes is, I know we have often got calls from customers when the new Adobe software come out and the desktop users have to update FusionPro so they can use the latest Adobe Acrobat or InDesign, the Adobe suite of tools. But on the server side, it takes time to plan the updates, to test it out, and then to roll out to a production environment. So there's always a time in between where it will be difficult for desktop users to upload the template they collected and get it to work in the server, because we do check on the server side to make sure the templates are compatible versions. So we added this measure in FusionPro user preferences inside the creator, where the user can say, I want to collect this template into a older version compatible to be with older version of FusionPro server. So that is at the end and the bottom of this user preferences dialog, there is a collect setting you can set to be to a compatible version. So this will give your IT group time to plan for the update of the server. In the meantime, you can still work with the templates you have. Since this, we do not recommend you leaving this feature on all the time. So I think about every 30 days or so, the creator software will remind you that you have the setting on. Just a reminder that, to have the server updated sooner rather than later. Obviously, if you have running a template, you have new features and you collect and try to run that in the older version of server, the new features will not come out. I would want to say most of the new features we added are sort of backward compatible. You will not be able to see the new feature, but usually they won't break the template. But do let us know if you find out a certain feature that's just completely breaking your job. So I am moving rather quickly. If you have any questions, we will have some Q&A, and you can also always reach out to our support team, and we will have more details for you. So before I move on to a short demo, the demo part of this, we do have a few more advanced features, and these tend to be, I guess, for quite specific use cases. But if you are in that kind of a user environment, or you have cases in the past you haven't really found a way to tackle that, so maybe those are the features you can look into and see if that's something you can adapt and will make your job easier. So the first one we added, actually number 1 and 2 are kind of working together, is if you have an InDesign document where you have text segments you want to extract out. Now the whole template is the pieces of text. You can now export that text from a frame and we will store that into a formatted resource files that you can then pull into a template. So the benefit here is we will preserve actually most of the styles, the fonts, the colors used for that text. And then when you pull that into the text as a variable text resource, all that information will be there. You can also go back to FusionPro Creator and read them back in as a tag resource and make further modifications. So that's a very specific change we made. If you have a use case like that, this is something you can consider without having to export the whole InDesign document. The last change I want to mention here is for repeatable components. Repeatable components allow you to design a block of content that can be repeated inside the variable data job. Currently, you do this by adding template pages in a template. Sorry for the double use of word templates there. So in the template, usually we'll have body pages, and sometimes you have overflow pages. And then if your job is on a more complex side, you would have template pages. If you have a variation of those repeatable blocks of data, you would have a template page for each one. I've seen jobs with 16 variations. We have customers with possibly 100 variations. So then your template becomes a little unmanageable because there's only one template. If you have different designers being responsible for different parts of this design, they have to work in the same file so that you can see that it's not very cohesive for a collaborative environment. So we added this functionality. You can now design your repeatable component as a standalone template, like a 1 page or 2, and then you can pull those, export them into a diff file, the FusionPro readable text format, layout format, and then in your master or main, the primary template, now you can pull those in as sort of a resource instead of having all the things contained in one file. So this is a pretty advanced feature, I think, but it can make your templates help you manage your templates if you have a very complex collection of those. So with that, I'm gonna move on to a little bit of a demo for some other features.
Ching, before we move on, we have a question on that last section right there.
Okay.
One of the questions says, where does the export text from the frame go, and what format does it export as? Is it a resource, or where does that live?
So when you say export, it will prompt you to select the file, typical file name and location on your computer locally or over the network drive. The format is going to be FusionPro text resource. So it's going to be marked up with the font, point size, color, bold, italics, things like that. And so that's a FusionPro text resource file. So it's a text file. If you open up, you see the markup, almost similar to XML markups, but that's recognizable by FusionPro with all the style information.
Great, yeah. Thanks for that answer. Appreciate it. Thanks, Ching.
All right, thanks.
Ching, this is John. For anyone that wants to see a particular feature in action, just go onto our website and do the request a demo, and I'll be glad to take you through any of these features that might be more advanced than we're showing here.
Yeah, thanks. All right, the first feature I want to show is, this is rather new. We did this year or improved this year, is the ability to take a PDF file and quickly templatize it. So that's this is still, I want to say, a work in progress feature, but we already have users that have started using it. So the idea behind this is, I know our workflow typically involves InDesign, and then you export the design file into PDF, and you pick up from there as far as adding the variable content, adding all these repeatable components, make a highly variable. So a lot of times, however, you will get a file from your client teams, from other teams in your organization. They will give you a Word document or Illustrator document, or even an InDesign document. So in this case, or a lot of times I know we are using PDF as sort of a high fidelity document sample. So you might get a PDF document to say, this is what I have. Can you add some content, change some content, or swap out this user, the contact session, make that variable, right? So they will give you a sample of the job in a PDF file. So we come up with a method to let you pick the text you want to convert to variable content. So trying to do that quickly and efficiently. So this is the feature I'm going to demo to you. So let's say I have a flyer like this, and that I had used before, or someone says, I have this flyer, I'd like to change the name of the meeting, or maybe some of the information on the address and section like that. So what you will do here with this new feature, the first thing you do is to assign a data source. Now, I think if you just get started, you can start with a non-data source, but if you already have the data, go ahead, plop that in. So once I have done that, here is the trick, is if you select the text icon, so instead of draw a frame, I'm going to hold down my Apple key on my Mac, or if you're on a Windows, it'll be the Control key. So you can't see, but trust me, I'm holding down my Apple key here. So what happens here is we will scan for the content that's in the box area that I sort of a drag and then draw. And then we will pick up the text we can recognize, including the fonts, the style, even sometimes we can recognize paragraph alignments. So that's a very quick way to get you to where you want to go, because if you just do it from Acrobat, what you have to do is to take a look at the font, take a look at the color, take a look at the spacing and the alignments, and then you have to go make those changes, especially the color part. So what I got here now is that we picked up the title, community meeting, and we also picked up the color mix. Also, you can see the font size is 68. We kind of picked up that. And also in this case, I do have the font on my system, so I'm picking up the font as well. If I don't have the font, you may get a warning to say we have this font, but you don't have it. That's also, so then it's up to you to change to a different font or as close as you want it to be, or you get the fonts from your client or the other team members. So once I have that, I'm going to click OK. So then here is something that help you to do this very quickly. Is you turn the preview on. It looks a little crazy because I have the background text and the foreground where I picked up as a variable. But you can see I just simply move my frame. I can line them up very quickly. And this is where I say, okay, I'm happy. This is the, so here I think I need to, I might give a little bit of bigger space. I think for me, if it's a heading, I probably would go make it a copy fit as well. But hopefully that's just a safe part. But in this case, I already matched up pretty well what I want to do. And then the next thing I would do is this magic. Right now, it's under the advanced menu. So there is an option once you have that text frame selected, there is an option to say, let's remove the background text. Now, this one cannot be undone. Once you remove that text in the background template PDF, you save the file, it cannot be undone. So we do warn you, and so just make sure you're happy with what you see. So now I click the continue, now the background text is gone. So this is a very quick way to take a PDF file, get it to close to what you want, changing some of those text from static text in the background into a variable content. Now, just given the nature of PDF files, the text, PDF files is about how to put down each character and the image on the page. It's not logically organized by the content. So sometimes we pick up all the content pretty well, like in this case, sometimes less ideal. So for example, if you want to go change the address or the date, this to in Adobe in the PDF file, this whole block of text on the bottom may be grouped together. So in this case, we do pick up the whole section. But in that case, we still preserve all the styles and the font size. So all you need to do is just to change that date, and maybe you are picking up more text, making them variable, maybe unnecessarily, but that's just the nature of PDF file. So we will continue working on refinements, improvements. But I think this has been I know there's a couple of customers already using this. It's really a great way to get you to the end result quickly. Are there any questions on this one before I move on?
I don't see any questions in the chat so far. Thanks, Jing.
All right. So this also the sample. I want to show you the layers. I do have layers in this PDF file that come from Illustrator. If I turn those layers on and off, you can see different contents are on the different layer. So if I compose this PDF file, you will see the same layers in the output as well. So I won't do that just to save us some time. So the next improvements we made is this is, I would say, a small step towards making things easier. A lot of you are using PDF page files as resources. Sometimes your content come in, you already have the PDF, you just need to put that in the background. So you're inserting pages from a PDF resource, and in a typical setup for that job would be you have a body page, or among many of the body pages, there will be a body page. It will be the start of that PDF insert. And then you would have overflow pages to allow multiple pages from that same PDF resources to be inserted. In the more complex job, the PDF files will be coming from rules, and there will be rules to say which pages to include, so that will be more complex, will require JavaScript. Even the basics that to insert a very simple job like this one. So this is really the simplest case. Is I have a flyer front and back. Somebody already designed for me. They said, this is the one I want. So I'm actually using the output from our tutorial, if you recognize this. But I did add a back page. So I have the front and the back of this flyer. All you need to do is to add a contact or variable data address box on the bottom of the page. But the rest of the content comes from a PDF that's pre-designed. It's actually more common than I had thought, but this is a pretty common use case nowadays. There are also more complex cases where you have benefits brochures. You're going to assemble a collection of rather lengthy documents together. So that's a more complex use case. So for this one, in the past, you do have to write a JavaScript rule that will give you just the right markup to get those PDF pages inserted. So we thought about taking a first step to make it easier is to add a form rule. So there is a new form rule. Since we're dealing this in a text frame still, the legacy way of doing this, we have the rule under the text rule. So if you go with this new 12.1.2 version, you can go under the text. There is a rule called insert PDF pages. If you open that up, it will, you can rename your rule. That's the first thing. And then you can pick the field or a different rule that will return you the name of the file, of the PDF file you want to insert. So in this case, I had the file name in just as a data field called insert PDF background. You can also specify the range of the pages, and we also added this extended capability, so you can get the page resized to a smaller size. So in this case, I just want a full page flyer. So my rule is pretty straightforward. I have the page background field that tells me what PDF to pull, which is that 2-page document I have generated. I'm gonna just put both pages, and I'm not gonna just let it be full size. So I have a 0 set there. So with that rule, you still need to have a body page and have a text frame. But instead you just have that rule inserted right here. And then you will set up an overflow page to hold the remaining pages. That's all the same. So I guess for the, I'll just go quickly for those of you who have not done this before. When you set up the overflow page, for the body page text frame, you can click on this overflow dialog and pick an overflow page, and you can say add as few pages as possible or make it even or odd pages. But in this case, I know I have 2, so I'm just gonna pick as few as possible. And then you add overflow page. On the overflow page, you also draw a text frame that is just slightly larger than the page itself, so the whole PDF page can fit in here. And then for this one, you will want to set this frame as the overflow page. So this button here changes just to a checkbox, because for the overflow page, you just want to say, I am the frame that would receive the overflow. So once you have this set up and insert that rule, we just put right here, and that will just does it. So when you compose, it will get the 2 pages PDF onto the page plus the variable text box I have added on the first page. So this just make it a little easier. I know for our new customers, I almost want to say almost every customer who had tried to insert PDF pages had to reach out to us to ask us for the syntax, things like that. So I'm hoping this will help customers be more self-efficient. The other feature I want to show you since I'm here, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Ching, let me jump in there. There was a question or 2 concerning something in here. One was, does the text frame need to be larger than the PDF page size? And is the X and Y quadrant in the left corner being 0, 0, or top left corner, sorry?
Yeah, I think that you do. The page does need to be just slightly bigger than the PDF page itself. And if you set your top left to 0, just have your width ever so slightly a bit larger. I think before we had this rule, you do have to have your font size really small so you don't take up as blank spaces. We took care of some of that with this rule. So my frame, if you can see, it's just a slightly larger than 8.5 by 11.
Okay, great. Yeah, and there was another question earlier, and it referred to something you said earlier about when you said that this was a newer option, but did this appear in an earlier version of FusionPro, this ability? Unless I missed
for the
that.
PDF, the one to templatize PDF, we had we had that in the action. If you do that control key, we had a little bit in the version 10. But it wasn't, we put it in just to experiment that feature. It wasn't picking up a lot of styles and things like that. So we've done a lot more improvement this time.
Okay, perfect. Hopefully that answers that
question.
And
we also improved a lot the accuracy of the regions and how to figure out the boxes in the text. So just.
Great. Perfect. Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
Great questions, people. Thank you.
All right. Oh, the other thing I wanted to show you. Let's see if I can I clicked on. Hold on 1 second. I think I closed I hit the key. I closed the Acrobat. Let me get it started again. All right, I can show the other feature with a different template. So let me show you one, this one here. I know being asked a lot is the partial transparency that we added this year. It was in the prior release, not the release we from this week. So we did add the ability to apply partial transparency to text frames and image frames. So if you open up a text frame dialog, there is a new option here to set opacity for the frame. I do have the preview on, so the borders are a little hard to see here. So you can tell, you can set up the opacity for either the text frame or the image frame. We also add a new control. This is the first time ever. It's a slider control, so I can slide this to adjust the opacity, transparency of the text. That applies to the image as well. I can go here, change the images. So I think this is going to be a really welcoming design feature for our customers. You can also set the transparency based on rules. So in this case, I do have a transparency opacity set in record start. So you can, I'm finding the frame named tagline. This is where this word was imagined, has a tag, the frame name is tagline. So I'm finding that frame, I'm setting the opacity based on a field in the data. The reason I did this is because when I was looking at this, you know, all the pictures are different, right? So if I apply to the same text, same transparency, it doesn't look the greatest for all the 5 images I have in this job. So I kind of, based on the images, I changed the transparency opacity level in the data. But so just know that the rule will override what you set on the frame. But you saw when I was adjusting the frame here, the property, the transparency was changing. That's because I disabled the rule. So I think if you have not seen this feature, this is one of the features I use a lot, is the ability to disable rules. So I disabled on record start, but if I turn it back on, uncheck that checkbox. Now if I go back to this word, you know, no matter what I do, you're not going to see that it's not going to become solid or completely transparent. That's because that rule in on record start going to overwrite what the frame property is set. So I do want to point out this feature to disable rules. I've been using it more than I thought. So it's one of these like, oh, I wish I had a long time ago. The other thing you can do with this rule is just to be able to troubleshoot. If you want to experiment with rule, I know when I make jobs, I tend to make a copy of the rule just so I can play with it and see if there's a better way to do something. And then, but then I want to make sure like I did get everything out of the other rule, that I'm not, if I just delete the other rule, I'm not like losing something I didn't know about, like I missed. So I would disable the rule first and run the job, make sure it looks good, and I can delete that rule. So this is actually a very useful feature, and I hope you get to use that. The next feature I'm going to show is the ability to, I don't know if some of you have already used it. I think some of your customers or customers have been using this already, is the new functionality to show and use groups to group variable frames together, and then you can set visibilities for per group. So this is a job, it's a rather simple job. This is a job in our tutorial. Initially, we had this job. The purpose of this is to produce a coupon flyer that for some customer recipients, you get 2 coupons. You can see there are 2 frames on the bottom here. And for some other customers, you get 1. And based on some rules, we figured out, you know, which customer gets 1 coupon, which customer gets 2. So there are 2 body pages in the original job. Based on the rule, we turn one body page on and we turn the other one off. Then, you know, there are 2 body pages, one with the 1 coupon, and the second body page will have 2 coupons, and we'll turn the page on and off to get that result. So we added this feature in FusionPro version 12. So if I'm gonna try, let me go open up my palette. So we added a concept of groups where you can group variable frames together. So for this job, I added, so there's a new groups tab in the overview palette. There are pages, by the way, if you haven't caught up with this, now you can rename your frames here. You can drag and drop in 2 different locations, and I will arrange the display order for these. And we added this groups palette. So here you can add a new group, you can delete a group. I will explain this checkbox on the bottom in a bit. So what I have here is I put all 3 coupons on one page, but I put the single coupon into its own group and the 2 other coupons into one group. So what I can do here now is, that's a lot easier to use. Let me refresh this preview. Is now I can see both results in one preview. So this setting here says ignore per record visibility. I have that checked, so you can see I can see all 3 coupons. But if I just want to see what the real data gonna show me when I compose this, I can turn this off. And then for this specific record, I'm getting 2 coupons. The other way you look at this is if I have this on the setting to look at all 3 coupons together, I can now go disable the visibility of one group, then I can see what's behind it. So it's just really gonna help you to design the document. You don't have to duplicate your pages. You don't have to duplicate this text box here where the addresses are. You know, in the past, you do have to make sure that box gets copied. If you make changes to one, you got to remember to make the same changes to the other page. But here, everything is together. You don't have to duplicate the rest of the effort. Also, it's a lot easier to look at the pages in preview mode. You don't have to toggle the body pages. So I think this is going to be a very powerful user. It's going to help you clean up your template, consolidate all these body pages you have. And even if you just have a lot of frames, we've seen jobs with tons of frames on one page, you can organize them by groups and you can go turn some on and some off. So focus on certain groups, certain frames at a time. Or even just bring the visibility from some frames behind another one. You know how frustrated it is. You have a frame behind another transparent frame, but you can't really select it easily because it's behind. So once you turn, in this case, if you turn off the visibility, you'll be able to select that frame. So I'm really looking forward for a wide use for this particular feature. I think it will help you a lot. The other thing, let me move to I think this is about the, I'm gonna open up a just a small label template. We have a lot of jobs now running through FusionPro, generating all kinds of labels. So this is one of the labels. It's really now very exciting. But there are a few things I want to point out with this job. The job is pretty typical of a label that you put on a shoebox. You have the brand name, the pictures, a sizing chart, and barcodes. With this one, I'm going to show you quickly a few things we make improvements to just help you do your job easier, easily. So this one, I have a shoebox picture. Now this is a tiny label. I'm already at 700%. So if I make it a little more manageable, like at 100%, this is how small the label is. Of course, you would not probably typically work in that kind of resolution. So you probably blow it up. Now my image looks pretty horrible, and I want to make sure I do have the right image. So we added this functional feature on the preview palette. Now you can toggle the preview into a high-res mode. So now your shoe label, you can tell it looks good and you're happy. You know, if you want to turn it back off, it's fine. For a lot of jobs, having this on probably doesn't delay at all. But if you have a really high resolution image, if you just want to check that job, you can turn this on, but then turn it back off so you can move around records and preview and make changes more quickly. This is pretty useful. When I was doing even preparing demo job, for example, job like this, I wasn't sure about, I don't want to pick an image that doesn't look good for the print job, right? Even if it looks decent in this resolution, I still want to make sure that I don't have bad images. Just having the high res, a quick look at the high res in the original resolution is really helpful without having to compose to a job. So this is, especially when you work in a job like this, being able to see that your images look good is super helpful. So just try to make sure you can do your job without having to get into a lot of key clicks and move around a lot, and everything is in one place. So this has been a very useful feature for me. Even when I was preparing those demo jobs, I want to make sure things look good. I don't have a bad image and things like that. So I've been using this a lot. I hope you'll find it useful. The other thing is, since this is a label, it's probably good to demo the feature I was going to show you earlier. You can see that this is a 12-point size. Actually, it's not bad. It's 12 point. But on my screen, it looks pretty small. So I tend to zoom that in. But then I have to do it for every frame. Every time I come in here. So another new change we made in this new release this week, 12.1.2, is ability to save those zoom factors and including the background color per frame. So now if I save this, I go into this frame here. You can tell I can hardly read this, but there is a variable there. So if I make that a 200% or even let's say 400%, it's a 7-point font size. So I'm saving as a 400%. Now I'm gonna go back to this, what I had initially. I'm still at 200% and my background color is still there. So this is just a way to get you through your day more easily and quickly, less frustrated. Hopefully this is a very useful feature for just your everyday creation, template creating job. Some other features we have added, I'm almost done. The other feature we've added is ability, you can check for updates. So if you're not sure what are the latest version of FusionPro, you can click on this button to check for update. I have the latest, so it says I'm up to date, I'm good. If not, we will show you what the latest version is, and there will be a link to the release notes, version history, and you can take a look before you update. Also, another convenient feature, I don't know if a lot of customers actually know this, you can actually see the serial number you installed on this machine. And also if you are on subscription, it will tell you that you are under subscription. You can always go to the registration program, but it's just right here, just more convenient. I think there are a couple things we added in the past version 11, but I want to just point out here, it's all related to making the product easier to use, is you can select multiple frames, you can copy, paste, move them, delete them. You don't have to do one by one with the new changes. Also the undo, redo, there are these two buttons on the FusionPro tool palette. You can undo and redo on actions. Now we actually also honoring the standard undo redo menu. So you can use your Control-Z or the Apple key Z combination to redo or undo your work. Just make it a little more intuitive and quicker if you're used to using that key combination. So I think that's what I have to demo. I know our time running quite a bit of time here. So
those are a lot of great features there, Ching. We really appreciate the demoing of all of those, and even the reminder of some of those best practices and the shortcuts that you showed. Those are great production tools. So thank you very much for the demo today. There's been a lot of great questions in the chat. Try to answer some of those as they were coming up. And there was a few other questions that certainly this webinar is being recorded. We'll do some polishing of it up, and we'll get it out there to everyone who attended or maybe didn't have time in their schedule to attend today or miss part of the session. We'll definitely get that out. If you do have some more questions pile in, that's what this time is for, guys. I know time is valuable, but if you have a few more minutes and questions to ask, please hit that chat window. I'll be happy to answer those for you. If not, Again, we appreciate your time here today. Thank Ching for her time, as well as Johnny Genovese. And guys, I was going to use his nickname, which again, because we're old friends. But what a lot of great features, guys. And I don't know about you, but I really enjoy it when the developers and the product owners actually get so giggly and enthusiastic about the features that they're developing to help people out. So I hope you guys see that value and see how much enjoyment it brings even the developers of the product to you guys. So great effort from everyone. We appreciate your time. And even a reminder, guys, about the digital asset management tool, guys. We're running a December promo, so now's a great time to get into asset management. Check out more. If you need more information, it's on the website. And again, we'll be here for a Q&A if you stick around. If not, enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Thanks so much.
There was a question about when this version is going live. It actually went live yesterday. So you can download it if you have a version 11 or 12 key. Version 11 if you're on the subscription, version 12 is its current version.
Right.
And then just a comment, Cheng, this is actually a great comment. Please create a way to drag and drop fields in easier when you have a data file with over 100 fields.
Yeah, that's a great request. Actually, it has been on our minds, but I will definitely write it down and put it on our discussion board. Thank you.
There were questions, Ching, about the information that comes over from InDesign. I did answer it within the thing, but I'll throw it out there. So it basically is asking, when you set something up in InDesign, some text, what all comes over? For example, font sizes, colors used, etc. And I had answered that all of that comes over. Now, if you're using, the initial line spacing, that comes over. But if you're using multiple line spacings throughout a paragraph, you may have to readjust that when you get over into FusionPro. But, a large portion of the stuff comes over from InDesign. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but
yeah. That's correct. We do read, we don't preserve the named styles as you can do in InDesign, the character styles and paragraph styles, but we do parse through these styles and pick out anything that FusionPro can possibly support. So that would include, all those paragraph, alignments and lighting and font size and color changes. And if we do find the color that's not a swatch, we will create the color combination for that specific style. So we can preserve, I would say, a pretty good amount of information coming out of InDesign.
So relatively new to FusionPro, is there a resource for basic training for things like barcode creation and rules? Yes, if you go out to FusionPro.com, there is a resources tab, and from there you can view the videos that are online. And if you have a specific question, FusionPro support at Marcom.com, or also if you go to our website, go to the support tab, there's a drop down called installation. If you go there, you can get onto the forum. And that forum is a wealth of information. It's pretty much, I would almost say, if there's anything that's ever needed to be done, it's been done and documented in the forum. I mean, that may not be 100% true, but that's pretty darn true. So a great place to get information for, all kinds of things, including JavaScript, scripts that people have written in the past and so forth. And our engineers do monitor that.
Since I'm here having my screen shared, I'll just show you quickly that a lot of barcode, you can use the barcode rules. These are also form rules. So one thing you can do is go to create a rule. I know it's not create a rule, but they're really form rules. So it's not that you don't have to write JavaScript for most of those. When you click on new, there is a category of rules called barcode. And over here, you can find a lot of commonly used barcode. For example, there's a UPC code. You can tell the which which data field you want to use. And if you have a more complex rule, barcode data that comes from the rule, you can also have a rule and then use that was too. Now, one of the things that you do have to know which font to pick. I think we might be looking for improvement to just let you pick the size, and we will put the fonts in the font scene for you. But right now, if you go here, you do have to kind of look up. But a lot of them are ID automation fonts, and their name are kind of self-explanatory. So hopefully this helps you to get started on the barcode.
I don't know if that's mostly because you're on a Mac or not, but I know on the Windows side, it generally picks the font correctly when you're creating a barcode.
Yeah, if you already have the data, right, then you can go to the text editor, right? Yeah. I think there's a default.
Yeah, right. It generally defaults to the proper font, but you can override it.
Yeah, those are all great suggestions. The forum is so beneficial, John. Thanks for pointing that out. I use it myself.
Oh, yeah, there is a wealth of knowledge there, and it's fun because you'll see somebody come in and I'm trying to write this script, and they'll put 100 lines of code in, and Dan will come in behind them. Dan's like the senior developer for the product, and they'll say, "Oh, well, you can do that in these 2 lines of code." Like, oh my God.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I love the deduction and the problem solving that occurs there. Everybody learns too, so that's what's so great about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it looks like we're right at the top of the hour, guys. So I know there's just a few people left here. Again, we really appreciate your time. If you do have questions, this thing will keep running, and if we'll do our best to reply back out to you guys. But again, great afternoon, and a lot of great features from the FusionPro development team. So thank you, Ching and John Genovese. I really appreciate your guys' efforts. And for those of you guys that are left, again, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your week, and have a safe and happy New Year. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Happy holidays.